Hi there, and welcome to part 2 of the Beginner Music Theory Basics course. And in this part, we are looking at harmony. What is harmony? Well, harmony is essentially more than one note played at the same time, or sung at the same time. Like in a choir, you'd have usually four-part harmony: a soprano part, an alto part, a tenor part, and a bass part. And together those four voices, even if you have 20 or 30 or even more people singing, they would be divided into those four parts, and together they would sing in what we call four-part harmony. And so it's essentially four voices singing together, singing different pitches together that make sense, that make a pleasing sound to the ear, whether that is a little bit concordant and a little bit discordant. Concord being nice and pleasing, discord being tense, and harmony is essentially made up of bit of tension, bit of release, and the two kind of marry together. So you have tension and release constantly going on in music at all times. Sometimes you're very aware of it, sometimes you're not very aware of it. So essentially that's what harmony is, fundamentally. So I'm going to show you today how you make harmony, how you make chords, and different chord types that you can use in your songs to and in your arrangements to make them sound really, really great and to get some interesting and varied sounds for your music. So first of all, we need to start looking at how we make some of these sounds, whether it's concord or discord. So that's going to be the first thing we look at, is concord versus discord, and then we will go into how you actually make harmony work at its basic level. You can get into a lot of detail, and when we do the intermediate series and the advanced course as well, we will definitely go into a lot more detail on how you can make harmony work extremely well on a little bit more of a complex level, such as Bach chorale style harmony. If you don't know who Bach is probably one of the most prolific composers of all time, writing a variety of music in a variety of forms: orchestral works, solo instrumental works, and choral works. And he developed this harmonic technique that has been taught for centuries. You learn it in high school, you learn it in college and in university as well. If you're taking a music course at any of those levels, you will learn some Bach chorale harmony. You may even be part of a choir where that style of singing gets sung. So intermediate course and advanced course, we will look at Bach style harmony. We will look at jazz harmony as well, and sort of ways in which you can expand your harmonic palette in those courses. All right, so concord. What is concord? Well, concords is where the tones that are played together don't clash and don't make a harsh sound. So, for example, if I was to play a C major chord, that's very nice on concord. Everything sounds nice and pleasing together. There is no tension within that chord. However, if I was to put my first finger up here on this C sharp, as well as the C, E, and G, now we get something that is a little bit more discordant. And if I was to move my ring finger on my right hand here and put that up on the F sharp, so we have the C sharp and the F sharp against the C chord, now you've got something that is very discordant and quite tense, and the tension is being brought in by these two notes here that don't belong to this chord. So that's the difference between concord and discord. So dissonance is clashing sounds. Consonance is nice open sounds which work well together. And that's not to say that dissonance cannot work well together, because it can. So I tend to think in if I was to have a sliding scale between concord and discord, I like to use spices. So, concord is quite plain, not much spice going on. C major chord, not a whole lot of spice going on. Fistful of notes. Lots of spice. That is super, super spicy. So that would be on scale, that would be on the super, super hot scale of spice. And just a regular C major chord would be down in the nice kind of, there's no real spice going on at all. And then everything else is kind of in between that. So extreme discord, very spicy, and then plain ordinary sounds like a C major chord, no real spice going on there at all. Okay, so now that we've covered discord, concord, music is made up of using the two to create tension and release, certainly harmony-wise. That's the case. So let's get into a little bit more detail. So let's go over to the sheet here. And what I've got to start with is I've got all the white notes and black notes laid out on this little piano keyboard. And you'll notice that the black notes have two names. And this is dependent upon the key that you are in. So if you are in a sharp key like G or D or A or E or F sharp, then these black notes are going to be referred to by their sharp names. And if you're in a flat key like E flat, B flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, or F major, then you're going to relate to these black notes by their flat name. The only time where you may, in a flat key context, see a sharp is when you see a leading tone in a minor if you're going to change key to a minor key, then you might see the leading tone from that minor key that you're going to. So for example, if you're in F major and then you change key to the key of D minor, which is the relative minor of F major, you may well see a C sharp in the melody leading to the D minor chord. Okay, and the C sharp belongs to the chord of A or A7, and we'll get onto that in just a wee while. Okay, so that's why I've laid these out here so that you know how to recognize the notes that we're going to be referring to here. Okay, next down, I have laid out the C major scale harmonized, and we've got a Roman number underneath, and then we've got letter names underneath. So we have the C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And then we've got these Roman numerals. And these Roman numerals come from classical music theory. And so chord 1 is what we would call the tonic. And then chord 2 is the subdominant. Then you have mediant, and so on and so forth. They all have funny kind of Greek names, which you don't really need to know. You just really need to know these Roman numerals are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we don't have the C above because it's the same as 1. So it's basically 1 to 7 and then 1 again if you were going to keep going up the octave. And then you'll see these notes on the stave here, and then next to them is a number 1, 3, and 5. The 1 represents the root, the 3 represents the third of the chord, and the 5 represents the fifth of the chord, because we have 3 tones, 1, 3, and 5. Okay, so chord 1 is C major. And then chord 2, if I was to move that whole shape up, we get this. And we don't have a major sound there because we don't have a major third. We have a minor third. So each chord is so named because of the relationship of the third to the root. How do I know where the third is? This is why we have this piano keyboard up here. So what we're doing here is we are playing a note C, there's C, and then E, there's E, and G, there's G. So you can see we've gone C, miss a note, E, miss a note, G. So we're playing a note, missing a note, playing a note, missing a note, and so on. Okay, and that is how we form a 3-note chord. 3-note chords are known as triads because there are 3 notes in the chord. And how do we know whether a chord is major or minor? Because of this note here in the key of C. So C, to E, that is a major third, because it contains 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps, or semitones as we call them here in the UK. And so that gives you an interval of a major third, which sounds nice and bright. Okay, and that's the beginning of Do-A-Dia from The Sound of Music. Okay, so emphasizing that major third interval. Sounds bright, sounds happy, sounds joyful. And if I was to make it minor, so if I was to go up a note, which is the next part of the melody, and that emphasizes that minor interval there. Okay, there's another little popular melody, na 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 na, and that emphasizes that minor third interval there. So you know that that's kind of sad or dark or nasty, I suppose it could be. So chord 2 is D, F, and A. D, F, and A. And that makes a minor chord. Okay, now if I shift my fingers all up one white note, we get E, G, and B. And that is also a minor chord because it doesn't sound. See, there you got that melody there. Okay, so that's a minor third there. And then if we go up one more note, we get F, A, C. Ah, there, we've got that major third. Okay. And then we get to chord 5, which is also major. But it's not just major. This is the dominant chord in the key of C major. So we have 1 and we have 5, and that 5 leads to 1. And the reason why it leads to 1 is because of this note here is B, and that wants to resolve up to the C. So that's how it wants to resolve itself. Or if I was to put it into second inversion. Inversions we will look at in the intermediate course. So right now we're just looking at root chords. Okay. That leap is a little bit awkward, but I'm just using the root notes as written on the stave there just for now. So G wants to resolve to C, so that's why we call it the dominant chord, because it always pulls you back home. It's very strong, it's very powerful, it's probably the most powerful chord in any key, is chord 5. Now if I was to continue building this G chord, G, B, D, and then miss another note, we get F. And that would make a dominant 7th chord. 7th chords we'll get onto in a little while. And then the next chord is A, C, and E. And is this major or is this minor? Well, let's check. It's minor because we've got that minor third interval going on there. So chord 6 is minor. And here's the really, really freaky one. This is the weirdest of all chords. This is diminished, and the reason why it's diminished is because each interval in the chord is a minor third. So B to D is a minor third, and then D to F is a minor third as well. And this is a very, very strongly tense chord, because it, like the G, wants to resolve up a step to C. Okay, now if I was to stick a G underneath this diminished chord, we have a G7 chord. Okay, so there's the chord 7, which is diminished, and it's diminished because it has 2 minor thirds. All the notes in it are a minor third apart. So for that reason, it is loaded with tension. Almost as much tension as the dominant chord. Okay, so let's move on to the next bit down, which is this box here. So these are our chords here, and the ones in italics are the minor ones. The ones that are not italicized are major or dominant, and this guy is a special case, which is why it's all on its own. And I've also color-coded these as well. So all the minor ones are green and everything else is black, and the diminished one here is blue. I could have picked red, but I kind of picked blue because it was just a random color that I thought of that is not black or green. I guess I probably could have gone with red because red is a little bit more aggressive in a color. Blue's kind of quite passive. Red is probably a bit more garish, so maybe I could have done that. But I didn't. So, and then these are our chord types. We have primary, and there we have C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, and B diminished, which is what we've just gone through up here. And then we have these secondary dominants. Secondary dominants are dominant chords that are a fifth away from these minor chords, and the chord 4 and chord 5 and chord 6. And you don't do a secondary dominant for the tonic because the tonic is the home key, the home chord. So a fifth away from D minor is A major. A fifth away from E minor is B major. A fifth away from F is C major. Fifth away from G is D major. A fifth away from A minor is E. And these are really useful secondary chords that will get you to these minor chords, because all of these are a 5 to these 1s, so to speak. So if you wanted to go from the key from C to D minor, you could go C, A, because the A has the leading tone, the C sharp, into D minor. And I'll show you what that sounds like. So let me swap over screens for a second so that you can see my piano keyboard and you can see me. Hello. So we have C and we want to go to D minor, and we can do it like this. We can go, there's C, there's A, and there's that leading tone that takes me to D minor. Okay, so C, A, which is the 5 of 2, to 2. Okay, now let's say I want to go to E minor. Well, then I can go from here. I can go B, there's that leading tone, to E minor. Okay, so if I was to play all of that together, we've got C, A minor, D, B to E minor. Okay, do you see kind of how those work? So secondary dominants are really useful chords for expanding your harmonic palette. So you're not just relying upon 1, 6, 2, 5, and 1, or 1, 4, and 5 for your songs. You can use these secondary dominants to kind of as a passing chord, a leading chord into one of your minor chords. So if you're going, let's say you're going C, and then you want to go to E minor. Let's say that's where you're heading. So you're going, and then you're going to E minor. And then you're going to go to F, to G. Let's say that's what you were going to do. You could slip in there that B chord that will lead you to E minor temporarily. See how that works? C, E minor, G7. And right there, you've got a pop song. Just like that, just by using that secondary dominant, the B chord, which is a major chord, doesn't belong in the key of C, but it does belong to the key of E minor, which is why it leads so naturally to that E minor chord. And then, of course, you can use the F and G, the 4/5, to get you back to 1 in C. So that's how powerful these secondary dominants are. So let's just go back to that screen again. So basically, I wanted to go to E minor from C, and I used the B as a passing chord to my E minor, and I'm temporarily in the key of E minor when that happens because this is a 5/1 progression, which we call a perfect cadence, because the dominant chord always pulls you to 1. Remember that. The dominant chord always pulls you to 1. Whether that's the overall 1 of your song, or whether that's a temporary 1, as in going to E minor, where you're temporarily changing key, which is what we did there. We temporarily went C, and then we played this B, which led us to E minor. Now, suddenly, our ear has told us that we are now in the key of E minor, and to get back, I went F, G, back to C. I could have gone D minor, then G, and then C. So let's try that. Sorry, jazzing it up a little bit. And see how that works? That's how powerful secondary dominant chords are. So they are really, really useful. So this table here is very, very useful. But notice here that there are no secondary dominant chords for B diminished. B diminished is all on its lonesome because it is a very tense chord all of its own, and it doesn't really have any friends. Okay, so the next one down here is parallel. Now notice how we have the same letter name, C, D, E, F, G, A, C, D, E, F, G, A. But notice how the first one here is minor, then D is major, E is major, F is minor, G is minor, and A is major. Now these, we call them parallel because they use the same root note as the primary chords, but where the primary chord is major, the parallel chord is minor. And the opposite is true here. So we have D minor, and the parallel of D minor is D major. E minor, E major, F major, F minor, G major, G minor, A minor, A major. Okay, and that's kind of how those parallel chords work. And they can be handy as well for surprise effects. You can slip in a C minor chord in the key of C major, or an F minor chord. F minor chord is really good in the key of C major, particularly when you're finishing a song, for example. It can be a really handy little device. So if I'm in the key of C, and let's say we're using that little chord progression again. But let's say, instead of using the D minor, we want to use F minor. Might sound a little bit weird because we've got an E minor chord coming before it. But what this does is this introduces the A flat note, which doesn't belong in the key of C. So you'd get this. Okay, so you're using a parallel F chord, parallel F chord, so that's F minor, to G, to C. And you do get this in popular music. You get this sometimes happening in late 1950s, early 1960s kind of smooth popular songs. You know, kind of what we would now call kind of fairly hackneyed popular songs, where they were just cliche laden, you know, kind of music by numbers, so to speak. And this is a formula that just works. And here's the resolution, because you have this tension here in the F minor chord with the A flat that doesn't belong in the key. That resolves down to the G. And the 7th of the G resolves down to the E, the 3rd of the C major chord. Okay? And that's how that particular parallel chord can be really, really useful. Okay, moving on. Let's turn the page on our sheet. And we'll talk about the next bit here. Okay, so we fundamentally have two types of chords. So we have major chords and minor chords, and then we have this diminished chord. So the major chords are chord 1, chord 4, and chord 5. So in the key of C, C, F, and G. And the minor chords, 2, 3, and 6. So in the key of C, this would be D minor, E minor, and A minor. And then we have diminished all on its own, lonesome little B diminished. That B, D, and F kind of sound, which has so much tension in it, and is actually quite useful when we get on to the intermediate course. We will look at minor 2-5-1 progressions. We're going to finish this video by looking at a very popular chord progression that comes up in just about every popular song that there is. And, you know, I'm talking about rock songs, pop songs, country, swing, jazz standards. They are everywhere, these particular chords. And I have referred to these often on my live streams and in Songwriting Simplified with Jonny on his YouTube channel, which we do on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central, by the way, if you ever want to come along, if you're not coming along already. So let me just switch over to the camera for a moment, just so that I can talk about this. And that is where we use chord 2, followed by chord 5, going to chord 1. It is a progression known as a 2-5-1 progression. And it is everywhere in music. And it sounds like this. So we have chord 2 in the key of C, D minor, G or G7, to chord 1. It brings a sense of resolution, is what it does. Of coming home, you could call it. Okay? So that's how that works in the key of C. But here's where it's really handy, and that is going from one major key to another major key. Okay, and that's where we're going to get onto the circle of fifths, which we talked about in part 1 to do with melody and key signatures. So we're going to revisit this. So let's go back over to our sheet here, and here it is again, our circle of fifths with the sharp keys going this way and the flat keys going this way, and inside the circle, the relative minor keys. And we're not going to worry about the relative minors for this series. We will look at relative minors in a lot more detail in the intermediate series, and how you go from major keys to minor keys. And we kind of touched upon that a little tiny bit, where we used that secondary dominant in the earlier progression, where I was playing C, and then I was going B to E minor, and then I used 2, 5, 1 to get back. So I played C, 7 major to take me to, which was the 5 of chord 3, which takes me there to E minor, and then 2, 5, 1. And that was our little progression that we played a little bit earlier. Okay, so going back to our circle of fifths, and I'm going to show you how I can go from the key of C at the top of the scale, top of the circle, so at 12 o'clock, to any other point on the clock. Okay, so let's say I want to go from the key of C to the key of E, which has 4 sharps. So here's how we do that. What we need to do is, first of all, state our key center. So we need to state that we're in the key of C. We're in the key of C. And then what I need is I need chord 2 and chord 5 of my target key. So if my target key is E, I need to look at my E major scale and so chord 2 is E, chord 2 is F sharp because it has to be a tone away, a whole step away, and then chord 5 is B. So we have 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1. And that has to be in my target key. If I try doing 2, 5, 1 in C, I will be stuck forever in the Groundhog Day of what I call a self-reflexive modulation, which is a word salad way of saying I'll be stuck in the same key forever and I will never be able to get out of it. So I need a 2, 5, 1 progression in the new key, the key of E. So now that we've looked at our circle of fifths, here's C, here's E. We are going to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. We're going to 4 o'clock from 12 o'clock. And if you're a jazz musician, that'll be 4 o'clock in the morning. If you're a classical musician, that'll be 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Just about ready for a late afternoon snack, maybe. All right, so I'm in the key of C. And I need 2, 5, 1, so I need F sharp minor. Whoops, that's F sharp minor with a major 7. Oops. And then B. And there I am in E major. Okay, so let's do that again. F sharp minor, B, E. Let's do that again. C, F sharp minor. And that is how you go from the key of C to the key of E major. Let's do another one. We'll do one more. So this time we will go, let's go a little bit more distant. Let's go from C to the key of B, which is only a semitone down from the key of C. So you'd think it's easy, but it's not quite so easy. Again, we're going to use 2 and 5 from the key of B. So what do we need? We need to look at the B major scale. B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. So, what was the second note I played? B, C sharp. Aha, there we go. Now what's the fifth note? B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp. So I need 2, 5, 1. So I need C sharp, F sharp, and B. Okay, now that we've worked that out, let's go and switch over to the other camera. There we go. So I need C sharp minor, because chord 2 is always minor. And then I need chord 5, which is the F sharp, which would be major or dominant if I put a 7th on it, to B. So I'm starting here. back in the key of C. And see, I cheated. Instead of playing the G chord in its entirety to get back to C, I just played G in the bass note, and your ear did the rest. Your ear filled in the gaps. And that's how I sneakily went back to the key of C. I didn't even do a 2-5-1. I just did G in the bass, and your ear filled in the gaps, and hey presto, you got back to the key of C without really realizing it. And that is how powerful 2-5-1 progressions are. And you can use them in your songs to phenomenal, powerful effect. And not just for getting from one key to another, although that is their primary function. You can use 2-5-1s one after the other. You can stack them up. So, for example, if I was in our nice key of C, and let's say I wanted to go to F, and then to let's say I wanted to go from C to temporarily to E flat, and then temporarily to G flat. All right, that's a little bit tricky. We want to get there real quick. Okay, so we're basically going from C to G flat, but we are going via, so we're taking a short detour to E flat and then back and then over to G flat. So I'm going to use a 2-5-1 in E flat. So I'm going to use F minor B flat 7 to E flat, and then I'm going to use a 2-5-1 in G flat, which is going to be A flat minor D flat 7 to G flat. So it would go something like this. I jazzed it up a little bit at the end, but you get the idea. So you can use 2-5-1s to do crazy things like that. Now I've gone from one key, the key of C, to a really distant key, the key of G flat, by using a stepping stone key change, temporarily going to E flat just for a moment, to take me ultimately to where I wanted to get to. So you can do little 2-5-1s, little 2-5-1s, little 2-5-1s to get you to your goal, so to speak. So you're going to go, it's like taking, take a left at the bakery, go down the street, turn right at the cinema, and there's your destination on the left. And that's effectively what we've done, and we've used the circle of fifths to do it. Okay, so I hope that helps, and that brings us to the end of this video. And the next video in this series will be part 3, which will be all about rhythm. We will talk about rhythm, and we will expound the glorious joys of rhythm. So see you in part 3.